So this is the What Next After Year 11 session. Hopefully you're in the right one, and hopefully we should be able to give you some useful information about what you need to be looking at doing after you finish in Year 11. So my name's Peter, and I've got my colleague here with me, Cerise, who will be talking a little bit later on. And we're higher education progression advisors, and we work for HEPC in the Sheffield region, promoting careers advice and guidance and hoping to sort of raise aspirations through people just like yourselves, you know, in school and in colleges, with the hope that you'll be able to use the information to maybe progress on to higher education. So just want a quick overview of the session outcomes. This is what we're hoping to achieve by the end of the session. So, you know, understanding your options after Year 11. It's called What Next? So it's about you understanding just what you can do after you finish Year 11. You might have already started thinking about it, which is great. If you haven't, then hopefully at the end of the session, we'll give you some ideas to go away and think about. So we're going to also look about how we can identify the most suitable options for you as well. So it's not just what you're going to do, but what's going to be more suitable for you. And then just highlighting some of the next steps in your career and the planning that you might need to do. Again, after this session, the hope is that you'll go away and start planning what your next steps are based on all the information that we're going to give you today. So there will be opportunities, as I said, for some input from yourselves, which brings me on to the next slide, where we're looking for a little bit of input in the chat, just getting some ideas from you, really. Tell us what your options are after Year 11. If you know, great. If you don't know, then obviously you'll find out. But if you could just give us some suggestions, what do you think your options are after Year 11? What are we talking about when we talk about options after Year 11? So has anybody got any suggestions? Getting anything in, Cerise?
Nothing in the chat yet, Peter, no.
Okay. So you're either a bit shy or you don't know. So maybe I should move on to the next slide just to explain what the options are then. Okay. So when we talk about options after Year 11, these are the sort of things we're talking about. So you could be doing A-levels. You could do a vocational course, such as a BTEC or more recently a T-level, or you can go on to an apprenticeship. And we will be talking in a bit more detail about these options, give you information about what these actually mean. So if you didn't know, hopefully, once we've finished this session, you'll have a good idea of maybe which one is suited to you. So when we talk about A-levels, you usually choose 3 or 4 subjects. A-levels are graded, so you need to also get at least a 6+ when you're doing your GCSEs. So again, check with the institution, the college or the sixth form that you want to go to. But usually, if you're going to do an A-level in a certain subject, you would need to get at least 6+ in that subject at GCSE. Available at various institutions, so colleges, sixth forms will do A-levels mostly, you know, to get you into. So the university students tend to take A-levels. Some institutions allow you to combine A-levels with other qualifications as well. So if we move on to the next slide, we've got vocational qualifications such as BTEC. Now, you don't have to just do a BTEC on its own. You don't have to just take A-levels on their own. As I just said, you can combine A-levels with BTECs, but it does depend on the type of BTEC level that you're taking. So if you take the available BTECs there, such as the Cambridge Technicals, you can usually take them maybe at a UTC, which is Technical College. If you're doing an extended diploma, maybe say for something out on design, you would tend to just do that course on its own because that is the equivalent of doing the 3 A-levels that you would do if you were just taking A-levels on their own. So they still equate to the same level, as in you can do a level 3 BTEC, which would be a level 3 at A-level. And then you can also consider going on after that, maybe into higher education as well. So BTECs are considered acceptable at university institutions again, but you need to check the institution that you want to go to if you are going to do BTECs. So I did mention T-levels. This is quite a new qualification and not many places offer them as yet. There are some in Barnsley and some in Doncaster, and you can see on the screen there, there's a list of what's being offered. But they are being rolled out over the course of the next year or two. So it's always a good idea to check the government website, which is there on the screen, the tlevels.gov.uk. Really lots of useful information, up-to-date information for you to find out whether T-levels are going to be offered in an area near you quite soon. then we talked about apprenticeship. So maybe some of you are looking to leave school and are fed up. You don't want to stay in education any longer, but actually you do have to stay in some form of training up until the age of 18. So it's unlikely you would go straight into a job. If you were looking at doing a particular job, maybe you've got a career in mind, then the chances are you would go into an apprenticeship. Now, these are different levels of apprenticeship. You can do after post 16, so you can do immediate or you could do advanced. Often you'll need at least a grade 4 in maths and English as well, and quite possibly science, particularly depending on the type of apprenticeship opportunity that you want to take up. And there are job areas and vacancies available in lots of different areas, so you'd need to go onto the apprenticeship.gov website to search for them. But you're not guaranteed to get one as well. So there's not as much choice as, say, A-levels or BTECs or even T-levels when they come through. So just bear that in mind. You might need a backup plan. So it's always a good idea to also apply to a college or a sixth form to maybe do A-levels or BTECs, as well as applying for apprenticeship, just in case you didn't get that. So you've got a backup plan. So we always suggest that you apply to more than one sort of option. So I'm going to share this video, and I'm just going to come back out of my sharing screen because I want to make sure that I've actually shared with the ability to play sound. So you just give me a second. There you go. Okay. So hopefully we should be able to now hear this. So this just gives you a real good summary of what we've just talked about, a lot of information about T-levels and all the other sorts of areas that you can go into once you finish year 11.
It's exam results time, and you're probably thinking, what's my next move after GCSEs? It's a challenging time, and this question may feel particularly daunting given the uncertainty of COVID-19. There are lots of options for you to think about. We've put together a guide to help you decide the best match for you. There are 6 types of study to choose from: apprenticeships, A-levels, T-levels, technical and vocational qualifications, applied qualifications, and traineeships. An apprenticeship is a real job with training and a salary which can lead you onto a higher level or degree apprenticeship, university, or work. An A-level is an academic qualification, similar in style to GCSEs, that prepares you for further study. A-levels mainly lead you into university or college. With training and a salary which can lead you onto a higher level or degree apprenticeship, university, or work. A-level qualification, similar in style to GCSEs, that prepares you for further study. A-levels mainly lead you into university or college, but can also take you into an apprenticeship or work. A T-level is a technical study program, equivalent to 3 A-levels, with an industry placement that makes up 20% of the course. T-levels are designed to give you the skills that employers need and can lead on to an apprenticeship, university, college, or work. Technical and vocational qualifications are a work-focused study program that give you the preparation and training needed for work or an apprenticeship. Although they mainly lead students into work or an apprenticeship, they can also lead to college. Applied qualifications combine academic learning with practical skills to prepare you for further study. They give you a good overview of a sector you might be interested in. They mainly lead you to university or college, but can also help you get into an apprenticeship or work. Last but not least is a traineeship. Traineeships give you the preparation you need to go into a job or an apprenticeship. There's some study involved, but they focus on work skills and include a placement with an employer. We hope you found this helpful. For more information, search online for the route you're interested in.
So hopefully that's just give you a real flavour of what your next steps are with regards to subject choices and the type of ranges out there. So it's, again, something you need to be really thinking about. Before I move on to my colleague Sarita, who's going to do a bit of a quiz, please post any questions in the chat. We can definitely answer some before we move on to the next section. So if anyone's got a pressing issue, anything that we've discussed so far about qualifications, please feel free to post in the chat. Shall I stop sharing? Okay, so we're not getting any questions in the chat so far. So if everyone's happy, we can move on to the quiz. And again, this is a little bit of an opportunity for yourselves to post some answers in the chat. It's just a true or false. So if you can just type a T or an F for whether you think the answer is true or false, that would be great. As I said, as much interaction as we can get, so we can get some feedback on just what you know, really. And that helps us when we're delivering these sessions in the future. So I'll now hand over to my colleague Cerise to do the little bit of a quiz and to continue the next part of the session.
That's great. Thanks, Peter. So obviously we've covered what options you've got after Y11. Peter's looked at those, and we're now going to move on to thinking a bit about how you're going to pick the right course for you and the right options. So I've got a couple of questions just to see sort of where you're at this point before we move on to the next part. So if I could ask any of the teachers who are online, if you could ask your classes and maybe type into chat. It's just a simple true or false, so a T or an F, so it's not a lot of typing in there. So the first question I'm going to pop up. So, do you think it's good to choose the same post-16 option as your friend? What do you think? Could you pop that in chat for me? True or false? What do we think? Peter, any answers coming through?
Nothing so far that I can see. So has anybody got any suggestions whether they think that's true or false? It's a good thing to do.
Peter, we can see lots of F's in the chat, guys.
Yeah. I was just going to say all the falses are coming through at the top of my screen, Peter.
Yeah, in the chat there's a lot of F's.
I can see it now. Sorry, I think I just had to refresh.
Marvellous. Okay, so we're thinking false, and you would all be right, absolutely. So we'd say, it is a bad idea to simply choose your option based on what your friends do. It may be that you end up going to the same place, but the key thing here is to make sure that, you're going to be picking the right course for you. Do be aware that some of the places you're going to, they may have several classes for that one subject. So even if you were taking the same subject, there's no guarantee you'd both be there, or the timetables may be such that you're in on different days and things like that. So do make sure that you pick the right place for you, so you're kind of not stuck somewhere for 2 years doing something that isn't for you. Okay, so next one, again, if I could invite you to pop in the chat. Again, it's another true or false. So do you think you can do an A-level in hair and beauty? What do we think to that one? Is this a true or a false? How are we doing with that one?
Messages coming in. So we've got true. We've got a couple of trues coming through.
So a couple of trues. Okay, it's actually a false, this one. Hair and beauty is actually what they call a vocational qualification, so it leads to a specific area of work, so it isn't available as a traditional A-level, which is kind of more theory than practical based. Okay, so what do you make of this one? If you want to study languages at A-level, you must have done that language at GCSE. So what do you think to that one, guys?
So false, it seems to be the overall opinion that that's false.
False. Okay.
A couple of trues coming through now as well.
So it is true, yeah. You So for some subjects, you do need to have studied them at GCSE first. So it's kind of giving you that foundation level of knowledge before you moved on to your advanced level studies. Although it is true to say that some languages that you haven't done before, if you did decide to go to university, you can pick up new. So things like, for example, Mandarin, Japanese, you don't have to have done it at A level. You could pick them up, but generally for a number of sort of to do them at A level, you would need to have done them. So the key message really is, you know, check on the website of the place that you're looking at, look at the prospectuses and see what grades that you would need to be aiming for. Okay, and the last of our true or false ones on this bit. So what do you reckon here? To study a chemistry A level at Barnsley College, you need grade 4s in science and maths. Do we think this is true or false?
Are we getting trues? Trues coming through, I think, but the majority of people are saying true. There's a couple of falses, but mainly true. In fact, now it's a mixed bag.
Okay, a bit of a mix. Okay, so again, this is where your research comes in. It's actually false. You would need 6s. So you might be surprised, those of you that said true for that. So do be aware that for some particularly A-level courses, you might need to get higher grades. So again, check the entry requirements. So for this particular one on the screen, you'd be needing 6s in the science and 5 in the maths as well. So as I say, it's worth doing your research. Has anybody got any additional questions that they would like to ask at this point before we move on to looking at where you can learn?
So we have a question come through. What if someone comes over from another country and wants to study the language in A level?
I think that would depend if they are a native speaker of that language. So they would normally do an initial, like a pre-entry test at a college to sort of look at the proficiency of that person before. So it may be that they would make an exception that they haven't done that at GCSE if they were fluent in that language. So there could be some exceptions. Any others?
So a couple of questions on apprenticeship. Someone's asking how old they have to be to get an apprenticeship and how do you actually get an apprenticeship as well?
Okay, it's a good question. So once you've completed at age 16, you've done your GCSEs, you would be able to apply for an apprenticeship then. We've got a few useful websites and things coming up soon, but normally the National Apprenticeship website, we can maybe post that in the chat for you to access later, is a fantastic place to look. So if you go on the National Apprenticeship website, you would be able to put in the area you're interested in. So say you're interested in doing an engineering apprenticeship, you could put that in the search. You can put in your home postcode and you could search within, say, a 10-mile radius of where you live, and it would bring up all the engineering related apprenticeships, so you'd be able to have a look. So you would be looking at what they call an intermediate one there, a level 2 apprenticeship. So yeah, from 16, and I'd say that's probably the best site to look on. Any other questions?
None so far, but I've just posted the apprenticeship website into the chat if anybody wants to access that.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, well, there's a chance to ask some more questions at the end if you want to. So I'll move on now to having a bit of a look at where you can learn. So obviously at the moment you're studying at school, so we're just going to have a little bit of a think about where you can learn at post 16. So there's lots of different options that you can choose from. I'm going to go through each of these in a little bit more detail for each of the areas. But sixth forms are usually part of school, like an extension of the school. So depending on the school you're joining us from today, you may have a sixth form there. It may be that you want to join one of the local colleges, whether they be a vocational or a sixth form one, which again I shall go through in a minute. There's also UTCs. You may or may not have heard of these. They're relatively new. They are a university technical college, and they offer kind of a bit more sort of vocational work placement. So the the UTCs are really good if you're wanting to do something that's got that little bit more employer contact whilst you're working towards that level 3 qualification. And there's currently 1 in Doncaster and 2 in Sheffield. So, you know, if you live in those areas or you fancy travelling to one of those, you might want to investigate further. So, you know, have a look on their websites, see when their open events are and go and have a look round. And apprenticeships, like I've just been asked about in chat, it is another option. So again, this is where you would be earning some money whilst you're working towards sort of different work areas. And as Peter's posted in the chat there, the National Apprenticeship website is, I would suggest, the best site for looking for those in the first instance. So we're going to just have a little look at the options in the local area. I'm going to start with Doncaster here. I'm not going to read everything off the slide here, but the UTC is one of the options that I've just mentioned. This is based, for those of you online from Doncaster schools, this is based in the town centre. You've also got 2 quite big colleges there, so you may or may not be familiar yet with Doncaster College and New College Doncaster. And you've also got, as you can see on the screen here, quite a lot of different sixth forms there, so you've got a lot of choice to think about. So, you know, just think about how close is it to where you live, are there buses you could get, maybe you could even, you know, get a lift there depending on who you know who's going, so that may be for you. Moving on to Sheffield then, again, as with Doncaster, you can see here quite a lot of choice. Obviously, we've got the 2 UTCs there that we mentioned earlier, and a couple of different sixth forms. You see on here, you've got kind of King Edward's, Tatton, Silverdale, etc. So do have a look on their websites, see what they offer. Do they offer the courses that you're interested in? That's kind of one of the key things, really, I would suggest that you want to be doing when you're researching, in addition to, you know, can you get there and things. So you'll see Barnsley here appears to have less providers, but they've got some really big providers. So you've got Barnsley College there, and you've got Barnsley Sixth Form Centre, which is part of Barnsley College, and they've also got Penistone School, which has its own sixth form. And remember, obviously, everywhere have got their own apprenticeship providers as well. So again, this may be something that you want to consider as well. And finally, last but not least, we have Rotherham. And again, Rotherham, like Doncaster and Sheffield, it offers a mixture of sort of colleges and sixth forms. So for your colleges here, if you're joining us from Rotherham today, you see you've got RNN, who tend to offer sort of more vocational courses and apprenticeships. You've got Thomas Rotherham College, who offer a wide range of A-level courses as well as BTECs. So again, have a look at those, see if you can, it may be that you're wanting to combine a mix, like was in the slide and Peter mentioned earlier, of A-level and BTEC courses. And again, you've got a number of schools here that offer sixth form. So, you know, you've got kind of Brinsworth, Wickersley, to name but a few on the slide here. So depending on where you live in your local area, you know, do check out the transport that's available, because it might be easier than you think to travel to other areas. So some of these colleges and school sixth forms might put on their own transport, for example. So it might be easier for you to get from Doncaster to Rotherham, or, you know, Sheffield to Barnsley than you actually think. So do that as part of your research and have a look. Okay, so we've had a look at the different options in your local area. So we're now going to move on and have a bit of a look about how you're going to choose the right course for you. So I'm going to invite you to pop some questions, well, some answers even, to the question in the chat. So what I'd like you to have a think about, and if your teachers could pop this in the chat, and Peter's going to kind of read those out for us, is how will you choose the right course for you? So you're currently in year 11 now, you're thinking about where you're going to go to, what kind of things are important to you do you think you're going to be thinking about to make that decision about where you know, and how you're going to choose the right course for you? So any thoughts?
If you're good at it. Sorry.
Okay, so something that you're good at. So yeah, you'd want to make sure you meet the entry requirements for it. Yeah. Okay, good.
We've got somebody saying depends on what you want to do in the future as well, and whether they offer the courses that you wanted to.
Yeah, excellent. So if there's a particular career that you're interested in, obviously that's absolutely check that they've got that, because it might be that for certain degree subjects particularly, or even certain apprenticeships, they're going to be looking for a particular combination of subjects. So yep, that's a really good one. Do they offer what you enjoy? Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
And grades as well, we've got here. Somebody's saying depends on your grades you get as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously your entry requirements, like the example we did in the true or false earlier, with some, with the question around chemistry. So again, certain subjects, things like, let's say, computer science, for example, there may be specific grades that you need to be getting at your GCSE. So do check those. Yeah, definitely.
And then a couple more. We've just got somebody saying something you enjoy, which is, yeah, if you enjoy the subject, you're more likely to do well in it as well. So that's a really good way to choose your next level of qualification. And then location as well is a good one. Do you want to travel or do you want to stay close to home? It's definitely something you're going to have to consider when you're choosing the right course and where that course is going to be. But that's all we've got so far. So Lisa, if you want to.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, you've got some fantastic ideas that you've come up with there. I think you've covered most of what I've got on the slide here, which is brilliant. So obviously we've discussed careers, things, what you do, what you enjoy. Maybe ones you haven't touched on is to perhaps think about, how do you like to learn? So is your preferred learning style, do you prefer kind of ongoing assessment and coursework where you're kind of chipping away, towards your final grade throughout the course? In which case, so there might be a little bit exam, but it's more coursework, so you might prefer sort of more of a BTEC style qualification, as opposed to something like, say, an A level, where you're sitting an exam at the end of your 2-year period. So again, that might be sort of something to think about how you learn. You've mentioned obviously location, entry requirement, the facilities as well. Think about the facilities that they have. Are you looking for somewhere that you can kind of access? Have you got particular hobbies, interests, extracurricular activities? And I don't think you touched on kind of the finances. Again, maybe worth having a look. Some of the colleges have bursaries that are available to support you with your studies. So again, that might be something important for you that you want to consider to see if it's realistic for you to go to that particular one. Okay, so what else might help you decide where to learn after year 11? So we're going to have a little bit more of a think about sort of decision making, really. So we've looked at, what types of courses are available, where those post-16 options are offered. But what I'm going to do now is look at how you sort of put these two ideas together, hopefully to get the right options for you. So other things that might help you decide, and we've touched on some of these earlier in the chat, which is brilliant. Most importantly, does it offer what you're interested in, the place that you're looking at? The entry requirements, is it realistic? As Peter mentioned earlier, make sure you've got a backup plan there. Hopefully all the hard work and the revision that you're doing at the moment is going to come into fruition. It's going to pay off. You're going to get the grades you want, but just make sure you've got a backup there. You'll find there's quite a bit of variety in terms of entry requirements between the different institutions, so do check and have a look at that. Have a look, as I say, we've mentioned transport, special buses, if they've got those on. If there's certain sports that you're wanting to access, again, if you play for a particular team, that might be part of your decision making in deciding that that's right for you. It may be that you're looking for some additional support, access needs. So maybe if you are a wheelchair user or maybe have dyslexia, for example, you might find that some places have quite a good you know, a better support system than others in place for you. So have a look and see where's going to be right for you. And you'll be able to find this by visiting their website. So have a look on there. Quite a few have like a virtual tour that you can do. You might even be able to go and see them in person. A lot have got sort of face-to-face sites. And, you know, have you spoken to family and friends yet? Do you know anybody else who's been to that particular place that you're interested in going to? Obviously, it's important, it's your choice, it's your decision where you go, but you know, they might be able to give you a useful insight. If you've got a friend or an elder sibling maybe who's already been there, they could tell you what it was like. And as Peter mentioned as well, make sure you've got a backup option, just so you've sort of not put all your eggs in one basket, as it were. And all of these apply to apprenticeships as well, where obviously you'd be doing a day in college and then the rest of your time with the employer as well. So make sure you've got backups for those too. So just looking where you are and the options, this is just sort of a simple kind of bubble chart, really, just showing you where you are now. So obviously you're currently there, you're working really hard towards your GCSEs. You're going to be hopefully aiming to get at least 5 or more GCSEs, a 4 to 9. You see, specifically, we've put maths and English on here. Any of the options in the middle bubble, which you're going to move on to next, age 16 to 18, that you can see there, A levels, vocational or apprenticeship, they're all going to be looking for you to have your maths and your English. So if there's anything you can do now while you're still at school to give it that last little push, you know, to try and get that 4 or above, go for it now, because the likelihood is you would need to resit those, whichever of those middle options you do. So even if you went down the apprenticeship route, they're likely to want you to still reset your maths, for example, if you didn't get it, or your English. So you can see here, once you've completed your GCSEs, you're going to be deciding whether you decide you want to go down the A-level route, one of the vocational, like you saw in the video. So you remember it covered like T levels, the Cambridge Technicals, BTECs in there, or it could be like an immediate or an advanced apprenticeship. The thing that's really important about that middle option is what it leads on to after. So it is a stepping stone. So the one in the middle, you can see there with the little arrows, leads on to your options afterwards. So depending on, it may be that you are hoping to go to university, it may be because there's a particular career that you want to do or course there, and that's an option you'd look at. You can see that whether you're doing sort of a level 3 vocational, the A levels would leave that open, whereas some of the apprenticeships you would need to check and make sure that you're doing that at the right level, that it would lead on to university study. You'll see the apprenticeships, it may be that that's what you're aiming for and you want to do one of the relatively new degree apprenticeships. So this is a fantastic way for you to sort of be starting to work, but also to be studying up to university level with that. So it just gives you another option there, and these are increasingly available in a variety of different career areas. Or it may be that you decide that you've had enough of study after you get to 18 and you want to go into the world of work. That's, again, absolutely fine. But just to say, if you did decide at a later date that you did want to go back to your studies, it's not a problem. There's things like access courses, there's different routes, so it's never too late to go back. So basically, the key message here is whichever route you take, you know, you could return to study at a later date if you wanted to. So whatever you're planning on doing in the future, always check that the qualifications you're doing are going to be available to lead to the route that you are wanting to pick in the future. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to hand back to Peter, who is just going to play a nice little video here with HEP that's just going to kind of summarise those choices and pathways for you, and then we shall start wrapping up the session. Thanks, Peter.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Cerise. So the next thing we're going to show, folks, is just sort of well, really it's a sort of summary now. We're coming to the end of the session, so we're going to really summarise just what we've covered. And this video here, short video from HEPSI, is just a really good video for you to look at to summarise, as I said, the choices and the pathways that you can choose after year 11. And if you want to go onto the HEPSI website after this session, it's a really good site for useful information about your choices and about what you need to be considering for your next steps. There's no sound. So there's no sound. Sorry, folks, there's no sound for that one. I've just been informed. So if I go back to the share screen, just give me a second. Seamless. Ah, there we go. Try again. So I won't start it from the very beginning. I'll try to start it from halfway through.
It's fine. We'll just edit that bit out.
Oh, is that playing? Is that still not playing?
Not with sound.
Not playing. No.
No sound.
No sound. Okay. So unfortunately, there's no sound, folks. But if you want to go and visit the HEPSI website, it literally is just giving you an update about how you can also plan for your next steps by thinking about your maybe university level or the job that you want to go into, and then planning backwards. So once you know where you want to go, whether that's a university course or whether that's a career, you can try to think about the options that you need to take to get yourself into that career. And it's just a really good way of sort of planning your next step, rather than thinking you need to get to the top of the mountain and you're standing at the bottom. You're looking down from the mountain to where you came from, and it's about working your way up to that mountain, to that peak of where you want to be. So again, please go to the HEPSI website, check out the video. It's a really good, useful way of finding out all the things that you need to know about making your next steps and the choices available to you. So I'll move on to the next slide. And this is just really, as I said, we're doing a summary now, so we're almost at the end of the session. And again, I just want to finish off with a few true or false questions, just to check your understanding really of what we've talked about. And again, if you can post in the chat your answers to these with a T or an F, that would be great. And we'll just get some feedback from you to see what you know. So you can study a mix of A-levels and BTECs together. Now, we have mentioned this in the session, but do you think that's true or false?
Couple of trues coming through here. Yeah. Oh, lots of trues, in fact. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. So that is absolutely true. Well done, everyone. So you have been listening to what we've said, which is great. So what about the next one then? We've talked about apprenticeship a little bit, and we showed you a slide earlier, but were you paying attention? Could an apprenticeship lead to studying a degree? Yes or no?
Yeah, we've got a couple of trues or quite a few trues. Yeah.
Brilliant. And that's the right answer. Well done, everyone. So true, yes, apprenticeship can lead to studying a degree. Again, you need to check with your employers when you're doing your apprenticeship to make sure that they do offer that option for you. And again, the beauty of doing sort of apprenticeships and going on to do a degree is you don't have to pay. The employer will pay for that degree as well. So again, if you are thinking going into employment, don't discount the higher education option. Always research and always find out if that can be an option for you as well. Okay, brilliant stuff. And then finally, just the last one here, BTECs and other similar qualifications can lead to getting into university. So we've talked about A-levels, and usually people think, yeah, I've got to do A-levels to get into university, but can you get into university with BTECs as well? What do we think? Is that true or is that false?
We've got lots of trues coming up. Everybody thinks it's true. Clean sweep on trues there.
Excellent stuff. So well done, everybody. So yeah, the answer to that one is also true. And again, always make sure you check with the university or the higher education institute that you're going to apply to, just to make sure that they do accept the BTEC that you're doing, or whether they need you to maybe do other qualifications alongside it to be able to get the type of grades that they want you to get for their particular course. But yeah, absolutely, it is true. You can do BTEC. So again, if you're a person who's doing BTEC, that's the way you like to study. Don't be put off by, thinking you can't go to higher education, because you absolutely can. But again, it's all about research. It's all about planning those next steps. So just to finally summarize then on this next slide, just really want to talk about things like you need to think about where, how, and what you need to study. So what's available? We've talked about location. So if you're thinking of studying close to home, is what you want to do available nearby? So again, you need to plan. If it's not available, then you've got two options. You either choose something else, or you look to maybe further afield. And again, at some point, moving further afield is something you may have to do anyway for a career. So, why not start now? But research, get that advice, talk to people, talk to tutors, talk to careers advisors. You've already started doing your research almost, by being in this session, which is great. But after you finish this session, go off and, find out as much as you can. Use the HEPSI website. There are a couple of other websites that we're going to show you at the end of this session as well that you can use. But also considering things like, is it what you want for your future? Are you ready for that next step? Is employment what you want to do? Do you want to go straight in and get a job? Or are you not quite ready for that big leap yet into the world of work? So maybe you want to do a vocational qualification that's related to the world of work, but not quite working in a work environment. So getting trained to do the job. So maybe spending a couple of years, still further education, getting that qualification. Or are you just maybe more academic, so they're related to A-levels and you want to go on and do those, and you want to do subject-based? Again, your next step, it's about you, it's about how you decide. And then just some more suggestions to help you with your choices. Really, you need to be choosing the subjects you enjoy. Just going back to that, emphasizing if you're enjoying a subject, you're more likely to do really well in it as well. Having an interest in that subject and subjects you're good at, these are really good ways of choosing your next steps. And then also your career. Some of you may have a career idea in mind, which is brilliant. If you haven't, it's usually a good idea to plan. As I said, maybe start off with a career, then you can work your way back so that you're making a well-informed choice about your next steps. And subjects that'll help you with that career choice or that future apprenticeship. If you've already got that idea in mind, then you'll know, if you're looking back at maybe where you want to be, you can look back at what subjects that are going to need to be taken in order to help you with that particular apprenticeship or even that career or even that sort of higher education course. So all these ways and all the ways we've discussed throughout this session will really give you a sort of a good, well-informed way of making those choices when it comes to leaving after year 11. So I did mention some websites here that we could definitely sort of advise you to look at. And these are websites we use all the time when we're doing our career sessions, and they're updated and they're sort of websites you can rely on the information being correct at the time of looking. So we've got the National Career Service website there. Again, really advise you to go onto there. There's lots of information about all the things we've discussed today, things like T-levels and BTECs, apprenticeships, and jobs and job choices. So there's job profiles on there. So if you've got an idea of maybe what you want to do, you can explore jobs in a lot more detail, looking at salary, looking at what the actual job involves. So the day-to-day activities, the skills might be needed. So again, it's a really good, useful website for you to be getting a really understanding of the jobs that you're matching to your skills and your interests. Then we've got another one there called prospects.ac.uk. So if you're not too sure about a job area, you could use Prospects and you can search by subject. So if you go on to what do graduates do on that website, it gives you a list of subjects. And once you click on the subject, so for instance, you might be interested in English, for instance, or you might be interested in art, or you might be interested in biology. You can actually search those subjects in detail and look at what those subjects can lead to when it comes to a job or a career. And again, it gives you ideas of maybe courses that you might need to do or extra qualifications, whether you'd need work experience. So again, Prospects is a really good way of finding out more about what you can do in your future, what career is suited to your skills and interests. But it's a way of searching through subjects rather than through jobs. And then finally, we talked about maybe thinking of your next steps, or thinking of your steps and then working your way back. We've got ucas.com there, which is a site you would use if you were applying to a university or to a college. And it just gives you a really good idea of what's available to you later on beyond further education. So it's a little bit further advanced than your next steps that you need to think of now, but there's no harm in going onto that website. And as I said, really planning ahead. Some people maybe have an idea, they want to go to university, but it's also a really good website for you to get an idea of careers available. There's lots of advice on there for prospective students. So again, we'd really recommend you go onto these websites after this session is over. So finally, that brings us on to the session outcomes again. So hopefully we've covered all these things. And again, if we haven't, you can ask some questions in the chat, and we're quite happy to answer questions if we haven't covered these things. But hopefully you've understood what your options are after year 11. There are lots of options. There's various pathways that you need to think. So again, go away after the session and start to explore those options in more detail. Speak to people, speak to your tutors, your careers advisors to get that support that you need and help you identify the most suitable option for you. And highlighting next steps in your career planning, hopefully we've looked at that. We've looked at what you need to start looking at for regards to your next steps. You've talked about where you might need to go. You've talked about how you make those choices. All these things need to be planned. So we're hoping that this has really given you an incentive to go away now and start to plan your next steps after year 11. So let's hear from you, really. We hope you've enjoyed the session. And the aim of HEFFest this year is to help you feel more confident in making those informed choices about higher education and your next steps. And we're also keen to know if the sessions helped you. So again, any feedback in the chat would be great. And discuss as well, if you want to discuss anything that we've talked about, please feel free to post anything in the chat. And Sarita and myself and anybody else who we've got on the line who can help out, we'd be quite happy to sort of, answer your questions. So I just want to say thanks for attending as well before we answer the questions. And if you've got any questions, please do go onto the hep.ac.uk link there to ask some questions and really contact us really to give some feedback as well. We're quite happy for that. And if you wanted to chat to our careers team, there's a link there, hepsi.org. Lots of useful information on the website, but also the availability to call or chat to myself, Teresa, and a couple of other advisors that we have as well are available for chat after this session.